U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
No, I said the other events.
No.
I wonder why.
Jack,
I wonder why.
There's so much to watch.
Jack, people have been waiting for the Chin Olympics to finish. You didn't even see who medaled.
Fine.
No, but who medaled in that last one? I don't think we even saw one
It
of
didn't
them.
even.
You hit next?
Yeah. Oh, look, now we don't need to watch the last one. Great.
Wait. Did we see Linus?
Mm-hmm.
So who won?
Finn.
The dancing?
Yeah.
His was pretty good.
The white one, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a major back roller.
But yeah, so great. We don't need to see the next one.
Well, yeah, well, now we can watch the fifth one next week.
Okay.
Describing the Bolsheviks as a band of underworld Jews. No context notes on that one. I wonder why. I wonder why there's no context notes on Churchill's anti-Semitism. Who could say? Who could say why? During the 1920s. Oh, I forgot about the insane Tucker Carlson guest, apparently. Daryl Cooper, maybe the best and most honest popular historian in the United States. His latest project is the most of all, trying to understand World War II. Uh-oh. Now, when I hear that from the likes of Tucker Carlson, uh-oh is the first thing I think of. Okay? Uh-oh. Because, like, trying to understand World War II is not the most, like, so many scholars have covered it. Like, so many.
It's
so
been
many
done.
scholars. There are entire fields of study.
Yeah, it's like the most studied point in history.
So when someone says, ooh, the truths of World War II, it's like, what are the truths of World War II? One of the most studied wars. Uh-oh. Oh, that's awesome. I wonder what those hidden truths are, Tucker. So I don't really know. I don't really know what this conversation is about, but I can guess. Which Elon Musk responded with, very interesting, worth watching. Elon Musk deleted his tweet saying a podcast with Tucker Carlson and Daryl Cooper offering excusatory narrative for calling, while Winston Churchill, the chief villain of World War II, was very interesting, worth watching. So here's the thing. I hate Winston Churchill, okay? And he was straight up himself, but for like Indians, right? And also every other.
The editing on this is weird because they're trying to cut out his swear words and aren't doing a good job.
The chief villain
that's funny.
World War II, because he wasn't. Because that was Adolf. Okay, that was. There's definitely like obviously. Oh, and the Irish too for Churchill. You're right. Obviously, there was a lot of bad guys who happened to be on the right side of history during World War II. Okay, but there was one big bad guy who was just worse than them all. His name, Adolf. Okay, if you're gonna rank like who's the worst guy during World War II,
no, because they're cutting out Hitler too.
Okay?
They're cutting out the word Hitler too. Who uploaded this?
This was Tucker's guess. He's legit just. It's insane. Time for a Churchill thread. Thread. Let's do this. I know that sounds like hyperbole.
Another
the most atrocities and commit the worst crimes. But most of the crimes he could not have been committed if the war
this
not
is
happened.
just another shitty Hassan video archive thing. Now, do me a favor. This is going to be funny. Go to videos real quick in the videos tab. And then sort by oldest. That's what I thought. See? You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? These channels just converted to make shitty Hassan videos because people watch so much of his videos that they click on him.
That's so funny. It's literally a Vietnamese motorbike channel.
So that's the issue, is that they don't speak English. And they're cutting out... They're trying to cut out all the bad words, but they don't speak English.
So they don't understand. They can't get the sentence structure.
Yeah,
It'd be
so
like us
anyway-
trying to edit Japanese.
Anyway, like so anyway, like get your bag, but let me go to Hassan's channel and see if he did a Winston Churchill video himself. Just go to the next one, which is just Hassan's actual channel, watching the actual interview anyway. It might even be the same video.
Okay. What do you mean next one?
Oh, hang on. The one that, because I added both of these at the same time, because I thought one was.
Well, I was never
sent
going
it.
to.
I just sent it. I just sent it. So I think that might be the same video, just actually edited by Hassan.
Okay.
If not, who cares? Because the actual video that you just put on was people looking at a Twitter thread.
Thought about the
see?
insane Tucker Carlson guest, apparently. Daryl Cooper, maybe the best and most honest popular historian in the United States. His latest project is the most forbidden of all.
How long was the other one? Just curious.
50 minutes.
So this one is 23 minutes and actually uploaded by Hassan. So
Yeah, this is much better. Did I save this already? No.
It's
I
on the
didn't.
streaming
I didn't
fund.
save this because I didn't. Because I already had one. That was what it was.
I think I found it after the other one.
So I picked the longer. I picked the longer one because I'm like, oh, the longer one will have more context. Nope.
Now, when I hear that from the likes of Tucker Carlson, is the first thing I think of. Because, like, trying to understand World War II is not the most forbidden. So many scholars have covered it. Like, so many scholars. There are entire fields of study dedicated to the Holocaust, for example.
What was that?
When someone says, ooh, the forbidden truths of World War II. It's like, what are the forbidden truths of World War II? One of the most studied wars. Oh, that's awesome. I wonder what those hidden truths are, Tucker. So I don't really know what this conversation is about, but I can guess, which Elon Musk responded with, very interesting, worth watching. Elon Musk deleted his tweet saying a podcast with Tucker Carlson and Daryl Cooper offering excusatory narrative for Nazis calling, while Winston Churchill, the chief villain of World War II, was very interesting, worth watching. So here's the thing.
Elon is a moron.
Winston Churchill. And he was straight up a Nazi himself, but for like Indians, right? And also every other brown person. But having said that, I still wouldn't call him the chief villain of World War II. Oh, and the Irish too for Churchill. You're right. Obviously, there was a lot of bad guys who happened to be on the right side of history during World War II. But there was one big bad guy who was just worse than them all. His name, Adolf Hitler. This was Tucker's guess. He's legit just a Nazi. It's insane. Time for a Churchill thread. Let's do this. I know that sounds like hyperbole. Churchill didn't order the most deaths.
Literally the one time that we could have used the black and tan soundbite, and it's gone.
Do the most atrocities or commit the worst crimes, but most of the crimes he could not have been committed if the war had not happened. Is he talking about like the famine? He's not talking about that, right? Like there's no way a guy with an avatar like this gives a shit about like people in Bengal. He must be talking about some other shit.
I mean, that's the first thing.
I know that sounds like hyperbole.
The first thing that I would criticize Churchill for is the Bengali stuff, because it also enables al-Haq.
Yeah. No, India was the worst, one of the worst things Britain ever did.
But it's just like Reagan, you know?
Yeah.
Gorbachev was easily better than Reagan. But like Reagan came in at a time with the like Afghan war, right?
Yeah.
That was great. But the issue is how it was set up by the Carter admin before him. Just like how Trump's Afghan withdrawal caused Biden to drop the bag there too. So like, it's not like we can blame everything that became Zia-ul-Haq on Churchill. He happened to just be the general of Pakistan.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it was mainly a Pakistan thing, not an England thing that was going on there.
Yes.
I have to check if my groceries got delivered.
Okay.
Churchill didn't order the most deaths, oversee the most atrocities, or commit the worst crimes. Okay, you'll think, but Daryl, everyone knows that the war started after Germany invaded Poland, Austria, Czechoslovakia before that. It could have been prevented if only people had listened to Churchill and had taken a tougher line against Hitler. And you might be right, sort of. Let's rewind the clock to World War I. Churchill's the boss of the British Navy, and in 1915 he implements a hunger blockade of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Over the course of the war, up to 750,000 Germans die of starvation. Immediately, context note says Churchill was not responsible for the blockade. Policy was established in Whitehall Conference in 1905. The decision was made by
yes,
Prime Minister
I saw this thread and I saw all the community notes. Yeah. Hilarious.
France, Italy. Post-war, Churchill opposed the harsh treatment of Germany. So a lot of people don't understand. Churchill is like not a good guy, just not in the way that this guy is presenting. The blockade, wrote Churchill, treated the whole of Germany as if it were a beleaguered fortress and avowedly sought to starve the whole population, men, women, wounded into submission. That's all you say, but war is hell. Okay, skipping this
so
stuff.
It's funny because it's just pro-Nazi shit. It's nothing about Churchill's escapades in other regions that were also fucking horrific. I mean, yeah. Churchill is not. It's not that he's not much better. It's like obviously like he didn't do the Holocaust or something.
Yeah.
But it also has to do with like government structure. You know, like how many people in history would have been Hitler if they had the same government structure underneath them?
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't say that Churchill would be like, "Hey, we're going to eliminate all the Jews in Europe."
Maybe not the Jews.
You know, but but I'm sure you know, like look at
because didn't Britain set up Israel? Wasn't that like Britain's thing? Aren't they the reason? Like once again, the British ruined the world.
But what needs to really, because that's the narrative that I mean I think that's a very good narrative as well, is that the Jews just weren't able to go back home. The Europe countries didn't take them back. Like I think that's a very good narrative to push. But you also have that narrative in the wake of the Holocaust. People didn't let them resettle where they came from.
Yeah, exactly.
The Holocaust is still there.
Yeah.
But what should be driven as being important is that Zionism was originally a Bolshevik idea, which I think they said in this video. I wasn't paying quite attention, but they said something about like a Jewish Bolshevik plot or something. Right? And like, you'll hear Hitler a lot of times, he'll just say Bolsheviks, talking about who he's going to wipe out instead of the Jews, right? He used the words like interchangeably in many cases. Yeah. Because of that, like, it's not just an attitude that Hitler has. Like, there's anti-Semitism underlying all of Europe at that time.
Yep.
So there was, of course, this Bolshevik ideology that they should go do socialism in Israel, right? Because these people were already being driven out of their homes by other countries even before Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Long before. Like the first kibbutz was set up in the early 1900s. There was also resurfaced documents about Jewish people from Europe seeking asylum in Palestine, in the territory of Palestine, which is very funny.
To be clear about this, what I'm saying is that this narrative that Britain built the state of Israel, there was already a strong Zionist movement that has its origins in Bolshevik people coming there. So Britain wasn't necessarily being like, fuck the Palestinians, they can move anyway. They were just going, oh, aren't there already Jews settling this area?
I mean, that would make sense.
So,
from what I know about what was happening before.
And also, Britain aren't going to think about colonialism. They don't already. They're like, hey, they're already going to this place. Why not?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
you could
exactly.
see something potentially happening, like maybe in history with other migration patterns, right? Where it's like these migrants are already coming here. Let's push them to this country where they're already migrating to. Like. And Britain's just also
pacifying Iraqi tribes.
The Indian fusion that's just colonialism with their food. You know, it's like us and Italians, except that wasn't a colonialism thing. It was just a lot of Italians coming.
Churchill insists the RAF must proceed with work on gas bombs, especially mustard gas, which would inflict punishment on recalcitrant natives. I'm strongly in favor of using poison gas.
This was about currents. This was about currents. He's talking about currents here.
Iraqi tribes. Very, very interesting that he didn't mention Kurds, if it's about Kurds.
He might not know.
Fair?
And then approved their conversion to be dropped from aircraft. No gas weaponry were actually used in Mesopotamia. Okay, now context clues are defending Churchill. Like, this guy who is probably a Nazi, but like so was Churchill. This is the worst kind of like annoying liberal. Twitter is literally a Nazi fest in every direction. I swear to God. Those who are trying to defend Churchill and those who are trying to defend Adolf Hitler. One type of Nazi is obviously worse, but still, what's the general? I forget his name. The one that said we fought the wrong enemy in World War II or whatever. Like, there's a lot of guys. Okay, yeah, Patton. There's a lot of guys who were like, you know, this Hitler guy, he's got some good ideas. Okay, yeah, I'm fighting him, but honestly, every neo-Nazi on Twitter. No, I'm not talking about like contemporary people. I'm talking about like people who directly were on the right side of history in World War II, but had the wrong opinions regardless. Guy who was surprised Tucker would do this. Didn't expect Tucker Carlson to become an outlet for Nazi apologetics, but here we are. What are you saying? When has Tucker Carlson not done Nazi apologetics? What are these people doing, bro? I mean, that's not even plausible deniability at that point. You're just like dumbass. Yep. Like, you're openly a stupid person. Anyway, like Hitler, Churchill blamed Jews for communism and revolutions dating back to 1789, describing the Bolsheviks as a band of underworld Jews. No context notes on that one. I wonder why. I wonder why there's no context notes on Churchill's anti-Semitism. Who could say? Who could say why? Churchill's public attitude towards Hitler in Germany was openly hostile after 1938. Some have pointed out that he faced bankruptcy and a loss of his family estate when he was bailed out with a gift not a loan by a wealthy Zionist. If there's any direct evidence that Churchill was bought, though, I am not aware of it. What is going on in this thread? Oh, and there are many simpler explanations for his change of heart, given to the war faction of which he was seeking leadership became more prominent and belligerent after Hitler's annexations of Austria and Sudetenland. Also, Churchill had been a booster of Zionism for the last 20 years. Yeah, Churchill also, was Zionism a thing before Israel? Yes. You know who was the #1 advocate for Zionism, even like during and before Theodore Herzl? Christian Zionists, who were also deeply anti-Semitic. Balfour is one of those examples.
Hey, that
Lord
was
Balfour,
the guy that created
Churchill
Zionism, I think. I recognize that name.
Who?
That bloke.
Balfour?
No, Herzl.
Oh.
Like, he was one of the... No. So the ideas of Zionism were written around the same time as Marx, actually.
Well, that's why the first like Zionists end up being Bolsheviks too.
Yeah, like, they were the ones that took the idea and applied it to Palestine, I believe.
Deeply anti-Semitic. Balfour is one of those examples. Lord Balfour. Churchill is another example as well. The only people that Churchill hated more.
Hold on. Balfour Declaration, which supported a home for the Jewish people in Palestine. See, 1917, way before.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Examples, Lord Balfour. Churchill is another example as well. The only people that Churchill hated more than Jews was, Arabs, Palestinians. So kind of worked out well for a lot of anti-Semitic, ultra-Zionist Christians, didn't it? Send the Jews to the desert, let God sort it out, let them duke it out with the Arab dogs over there, that sort of thing. Kind of not that different from literally Indians too. Churchill hated Indians, how could I forget? And the Irish, of course. He hated a lot of people. I'm just saying he was also anti-Semitic on top of that. Why is his legacy so clean? I don't know. Why is George W. Bush's legacy so clean?
I hate
He's still
everybody.
alive. He hasn't even died.
Winston
That's
Churchill.
what we do. We love
direct quote. You can trust us.
Rewriting history and making it seem like, dude, most Americans
we will continue to be your single
about
source
the
of
fact
truth.
that
Dismiss
virtually
anything
not
else.
every single founding father, but a big chunk of our founding fathers were slave owners, dog. Why do you think nobody thinks about that? Like, what do you mean? In an October 6th speech, Hitler said he did not want war. Oh, never mind then. I guess Hitler said he did not want war. So I guess that's it then. Don't look at anything else afterwards. Yeah, but Hitler did not want war with Britain. So this is true. He definitely didn't want war with England. That's not wrong. Hitler tried again, going on the radio to broadcast a call for peace directly to the British people. He would give back parts of Poland that were not majority German. What? And would work. Wait, what? Why is there no context note on that? What the and would work with other powers to reach an acceptable solution to the Jewish problem. He was ignored. Okay, what is going on, dude? Okay, first of all, reach an acceptable solution to the Jewish problem? Dog, if you are writing that out as though, there was a Jewish problem, you're just welcome back Adolf Hitler. Like, what do you mean? What is going on? Benjamin Netanyahu wanted peace. He just wanted a solution to the Palestinian problem. Like what? He wanted an acceptable solution to the Palestinian problem. Oh, got it. Okay. The reason why I'm making comparisons to Israel is one, because obviously Israel has a lot of fascist Nazi style politics, but also because someone in the chat said this guy also did like a long and I guess well thought out like series on Israel. So once again, showcasing that like the smoke that you have for Israel, you don't have for Nazi Germany. So maybe the smoke that you have for Israel is not about like ethno-nationalist supremacist sentiment, but the fact that it's Jews that are doing it. You have a problem with Jewish people that are.
I haven't been looking at chat because I've been doing work on my phone.
I don't think chat's
well.
going, is it?
No. We've got a lot of Jew stuff in here.
Fucking Jews.
Are doing it, and not necessarily like the principle of ethno-nationalist supremacy.
All this Jew stuff.
India was Ireland the sequel with the exporting of
the sequel.
Britain tactically supported Jewish settlers, but it was more to undermine the Ottomans. That's because they cared about Jews. Yeah. I gotta do shit tonight. Oh, see you later. Okay.
Bye.
I grew up in a fairly Jewish community when I was still very little. There were old Jews who would talk about their experience with pogroms and stuff when they were kids. Exactly. Yeah. So they were the old olds.
Apartheid and genocide. This is why I always say like fascists, both Nazis, neo-Nazis who are anti-Semitic, and also fascists who are pro-Israel, sometimes Jewish, other times not Jewish, regardless of what their background is ethnically, religiously. They still have the same goals, just the enemies are different and the in-group is different, but the goals still remain the same. I have an issue with the goal of ethno-nationalist supremacist attitudes and ethnic cleansing. I don't care who's doing it. I don't care if it's like Jews doing it or Germans doing it for folk. I don't care who the enemies are in that situation as well. I just think that the framework is fraught and also is disastrous and incredibly bloody, because I'm an anti-fascist and not an anti-Semite. What if it was the Ottomans trying to reclaim previous lands? On board with that too. In 1940, Noam Goldman, World Jewish Congress, said that if the war in Europe goes on for another year, 1 million of the 2 million Jews in Poland will be dead of starvation or killed by Nazi persecutors. This gets close to the heart of my Churchill criticism. My contention is not that the Third Reich was peaceful or that Germany did not kill Jews. Germany dishonored itself by its conduct on the Eastern Front. What kind of Holocaust revisionism, Nazi revisionism is this? He's like, listen, it was really fucked up because they dishonored themselves. It was a few bad apples. My contention is that the war was not inevitable, that in fact, almost no one but Churchill's faction wanted it, and that the atrocity. So the problem is, it's not wrong that Western capitalists, in fact, almost no one.
The community note is great. Atrocities against and mass murder of Jews, Roma, disabled people, Ligbidiqua, and etc. by the Nazi regime as early as 1934. The Nuremberg laws codified this terror campaign in 1935. They were not the result of England declaring war in 1939. Love that.
But Churchill's faction wanted it, and that the atrocity. So the problem is, it's not wrong.
Seriously? What, the 9mm SMG page? Is that where this all started? Jesus fucking Christ.
I mean, I would assume it's
early on.
This guy talking about Churchill has been at this for a while, so it's dependent on if 9mm SMG influences Tucker Carlson there, which would be a huge lead if you can actually look at the connections between the two, because also it might even be a coincidence, because Tucker may have booked this guy in advance before 9mm SMG said anything.
Well, because where did he post about Churchill? Did he?
I don't know. I don't look at that person.
No, neither do I. Could you post the tweets in the Discord? I am curious.
We can do a little investigation to see when those tweet. Just search his page with the words Churchill.
Yeah. Or with Nazi Germany, there was a period of appeasement.
Oh, okay.
That's true. He's British. If you ask liberals, they'll constantly talk about the appeasement of one side, Stalin, to be like, remember Stalin conducted
firmly anti-British here.
His grandparents were okay. So his grandparents, who were Nazis, were bombed by Churchill.
I guess so. 9mm Smith Churchill.
A deal with Nazi Germany in an effort to like parse out pieces of Poland and like they're the real evil in this situation. And it's like, again, both sides of this revisionist history operate on the same principles that like dumbass pro-Confederate Republicans operate on when they turn around and say, oh, well, the Republicans, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican actually, sweetie, so Democrats are the real racists. It's like, dude, a lot of history has happened since then, just like the main thing happened after the period of appeasement, both from the West and from the USSR. You can't literally talk about appeasement and not talk about what.
Good Lord. Okay. So this is the twit. It says, so the picture is Adolf Hitler on a walk with Helga Goebbels, and then talks about how they gave the kids cyanide when they killed themselves. It says Helga was given cyanide before Allied victory because they knew that if she had fallen into the Allied hands, she would be raped by Allied soldiers, not Allied Soviet. Please be specific. Post World War II, although wouldn't put it past them, honestly. Post World War II, German civilian women and children suffered tremendous atrocities at the hands of the Russians. That's true. Other allies, I don't know how much that can be substantiated there. Definitely the Russians, but I don't know about other allies. They had nothing to do with the war outside existing there. The price for existing was massive. And then he goes, no one speaks of the atrocities of the Dresden bombing either. It was always those
Everyone
evil
talks
Germans.
about Dresden.
Yeah. Churchill, after refusing peace talks, oh my God. Always with the refusing peace talks. You notice how it echoes with shit that's been going at the moment? Has a wild bloodlust for Germany and its people. Allies dropped hellfire on countless innocent Germans, bodies of children scorched. All right, buddy.
Bro, yeah, no, I literally pull up a picture showing a mother holding her children, and I put it next to a picture of a guy who's he's completely carbonized skeleton, but the Nazi armband on his arm survived the burning. So you can see that he was literally an armband wearing Nazi, and I put it next to a woman trying to protect her children from it when I talk about the Dresden bombing.
Yes.
All right. And
After refusing peace talks.
I talk about Dresden a lot because it's central to like my theory on global politics and when I argue for America, you know, even though like I'm against America, I still argue that the like, you know, precision bombing is better, you know, like it's, you know, sometimes it's fine to bomb terrorists, but the thing is that oftentimes civilians are hit. Like, look at the new Somalia campaign, right?
Yeah.
How they got so strict on drone strikes because so many kids have been. It's because so many kids were hit first. Okay,
Yeah.
It's a proactive policy to fix mistakes of bad bombings in the past, and this idea of the ethical bombing was something that really dominated World War II when they were trying to basically figure out a way to like make bombs that didn't like kill civilians and stuff so they could be used, you know, basically so they could be used indiscriminately is really what was the thought behind it. Where they said, what if we can make sure bombs always hit military targets? Like the strategic bombing, aka bombing civilians, is so rare because it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
All it is like when all it is people who do it are people who are doing it out of like an anger expression, like Russia bombing Ukraine.
There are other examples as well. Retaliatory bombings, sort of stuff. Israel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Israel is
well,
super indiscriminate.
Yeah. And that's
almost
why
all bombings they do are strategic because of the civilian population in Gaza. You can say that it's tactical, but
nope.
came after, because what came after is far more consequential. Atrocities against mass murders of Jews, Roma, disabled people, LGBTQ people, etc. by the Nazi regime began as early as 1934. The Nuremberg laws codified this terror act campaign in 1935. They were not the result of England declaring war in 1939.
Those
I think
tweets were from July 11th this year.
Pretty
If
old.
I could see the retweets, I would see if Tucker Carlson had retweeted it, but I can't.
It's obviously difficult to determine, where things come from, because as you can see, a lot of the stuff being said here is mirroring stuff happening today.
Yeah.
So it's also, how much does the modern era impact the reaction of fascists?
Yes.
Okay, that's weird. One of my Twitch monitors, Kura was censored. But not all of them. Only my my personal account. I guess I might have a flag that's like, keep sensitive words away from me. I gotta check if I have groceries yet.
Is not only supportable, but also as close to provable as historic counterfactuals can get. Let's continue. The next night, more British bombers flew over Germany. Oh my God, it should be illegal to make a Twitter thread this long. Flip from the Tucker pod instead of reading.
It was the chief villain of the Second World War. Now, he didn't kill the most people. He didn't commit the most atrocities. But I believe, and I think when you really get into it and tell the story right and don't leave anything out, you see that he was primarily responsible for that war becoming what it did, becoming something other than an invasion of Poland. Germany, look,
it even put stars for it when you said it here, but it's only on my personal.
That's weird.
I must have something
flagged. What does it mean?
I assume isn't that the word you say before you talk about beavers?
What?
They know. Chat knows.
Is chiefly responsible for.
Why do you often say England instead of Britain? I don't know. It's just easier
for this, but his old regime is responsible for it. That when they went into the East in 1941, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of.
I think it's kind of terrifying that the position that, like, outside of the Jew thing, Hitler wasn't all that bad, has become an increasingly more popular position in the supposed intellectuals of the right. Like, this was originally talked about by Candace Owens. Hitler wanted to make Germany great, but then he became a globalist, and it's like, what the are you talking? What Hitler did in Germany was not great. I mean, it is MAGA, like it was MAGA principles. It's just like, you shouldn't probably use that as like a sentiment that you agree with openly, but it is kind of weird how mainstream seemingly this kind of attitude is getting.
Prisoners of war, of local political prisoners and so forth, that they were going to have to handle. They went in with no plan for that, and they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there. You have like letters as early as July, August 1941.
Okay, the underlying premise here is literally like that Jews were a problem that needed to be dealt with. I don't know if he like understands that he's saying that. I don't know if he understands he's saying that, but it's like, they should have not been in the camps to begin with. What the fuck are you saying? That is an insane thing to say. The first question should be, I'm sorry, what do you mean the Jewish problem? Is your issue with the Holocaust a matter of logistics? Like, that's what your problem is with the Holocaust? Is just that, they didn't plan ahead? That's what it is? What a psychotic thing to say out loud. That's insane. He also just said they ended up dying there as if they weren't tortured, starved, and murdered. Yeah, that too.
From commandants of these makeshift camps that they're setting up for these millions of people who are surrendering, or people they're rounding up. And so it's 2 months after, a month or two after Barbara Roche.
Isn't Hitler universally a bad guy and Churchill's UK the good guys? Okay. Neek skit, our 15-year-old Mormon. Churchill did a lot of stuff that is objectively Hitlerian as well. However, the big bad in World War II is Adolf Hitler, is obviously Japan, is the Axis powers with Mussolini in Italy. That is correct. This does not mean that like Churchill was a good guy all around. He was not. Okay, very racist guy, anti-Semitic, but he was pushed to do the right thing in World War II. Now, this guy's issues with Churchill are not the things that I'm talking about. Like, for example, I don't think he gives a single to even present himself as like, I don't know, someone who cares about ton of Indian people being murdered. Like, he doesn't care about that at all. Like, you could literally just explain, even if you wanted to like present yourself as like a normal human, you could have just simply said that, you know what I mean? Like as a centrist or something. Anyway, the point is, I see this and I find it to be rather alarming because the original principle was like the double genocide theory, right? Which was Holocaust revisionism by a different name. Like, oh, the USSR also did their genocide and they're communists and they're bad. That's how you open the door to like Holocaust revisionism and also allegiances to fascist ideology. You open the door by saying, well, you know, we're fighting the enemies of fascists. And that's precisely what America did, as a matter of fact, post World War II with the Marshall Plan and with NATO. That's precisely what they did in Western Europe specifically, where they literally were like, who are the greatest killers of communists, trade unionists, and socialists? Oh, those are the fascists that didn't die in World War II. So then, slowly but surely, you build out your allegiances. You create a network of international fascist cells that you never really fully recognize or see as an enemy ever again post World War II. And then you focus on the real enemy, right? Communism. And that's precisely how liberals have operated. And now we are finally reaching the final chapter of this this weird, well, not weird, but like this important alignment. What is this guy saying? Murat, kapıyı touch. But now we are arriving at like the last stage, the final chapter in this like Holocaust revisionism, where they move past like, well, the socialists were bad too, to just being like, no,
I think
this
it
guy
was less
seems-
about communism and more about Stalin, buddy.
This guy seems to
Like-
care about Winston Churchill a whole lot.
Who, Hassan?
No. The 9mm SMG guy.
I told you.
He's obsessed.
I
a
told you.
weirdo.
It's just like the Lincoln narratives that libertarians do as an intro to their fucking Confederacy of India.
Mhm.
Right. Anyway, Hassan isn't talking about, they never analyzed this as Stalin, right? Because like, guess what? If France post-war France was a communist nation, you think there would be as much anti-communism? No, of course not.
Mm.
Right? Because if a Western communist nation formed at that time, it would be a much different thing. And like some would argue it is, some would argue it's not. But I think Titoism is different enough than what Stalin forms
Oh, yes.
that it kind of puts that theory into test, you know? Like that
Yeah.
region is fundamentally different culturally than other parts of Europe.
I mean,
which
look
is
how
not
different
controversial
communism
to
is
say.
in Asia.
Right? So like the issue is still that everyone is modeling their model after Stalin, who came to power because that's what they wanted to be. So it was less about actually anti-ideology and more about countering Stalin, because when they came to Stalin and they were in the ceasefire and they asked him, yeah, you're going to give all that territory back, right?
Mm.
And Stalin laughed and left the meeting.
Yeah.
So De Gaulle shut them down. Didn't De Gaulle also? Who is De Gaulle the one who also was like kind of anti-NATO? I don't remember.
Yes, de Gaulle gave French autonomy over their nuclear weapons.
Mm.
That was him.
So he must have been around for a while.
I think he was, yeah.
Socialists are the only evil, and now they're actually saying the quiet part out loud, where it's like, well, the Nazis weren't bad. That's how it starts. It starts with, well, the socialists or the communists were bad too, to the communists were actually
But
worse.
here's the
Black
thing.
Book of Communism.
See,
That is
here's the thing.
historical
What you
text.
have
I'm
to
putting
think
that in air
about the
quotes.
period,
It's-
Hassan, and this is what you're missing, right? They denazified, right? So their idea is that the people who are communists are like Stalinist infiltrators, right? Because there was no fascist nation, there wasn't the same resistance to fascism because it had already been taken out. There's no fascist nation putting like spies in your country to like infiltrate your people and sow discourse, right? Because there would be no people like sowing discourse if there, wasn't a nation there, right? Because like that's how states think. They don't think that they're people. It's like Gaddafi. My people love me, all of them. And then he says, and then she says, if you say they do love you, then why are they protesting you? And what does Gaddafi say, Jack?
It's guide.
Not
It
my
is a
people.
guide. It is guide, not my people. It is guide. Guide.
It's not my people.
Yeah, my people love me all. Right? It's Gaddafi mindset. These states are too stupid to think that discord would come about naturally. the French Revolution. Why do they start cutting off people's heads? They think they're sympathetic to the monarchy, right? So the denazification happened, and since there's not a Nazi power, it can't happen again because we're fucking stupid.
Do you remember those?
If Stalin gave all the land back, guess what? Communism would be a lot farther off, a lot closer than it is further off now.
Two things. Under one of those tweets that you sent in the Discord, the first reply, I mean, it's impressive he was arguably able to be an even worse person than Lincoln. That's funny. Secondly, do you remember when I was arguing with those fucking meathead fuckwits who were saying that being on steroids was natural because you're just replacing your testosterone? Do you remember those?
No, because I wouldn't care.
Sure. Okay. Well, I was fighting with those guys, and they you know those like cult Twitter spaces where they all have the same fucking name. So these are one of those guys. They all have bow tied in front of their fucking name, and they make supplements and shit. And they're just massive disinformation agents for like fitness industry shit.
Yeah.
Under that tweet, that Nazis tweet, one of them goes liked, subscribed, and hit the notification bell. I'm like, oh boy, a bow tied account. The people who are aggressively anti-fat people to the point that they will bully them out of gyms, right? So it's not that they are pro-fitness, they are anti-fat, where I'm more pro-fitness.
Okay.
Right?
I'm fascist. They're Nazis.
Hey,
anyway.
Fuck yourself.
Anyway.
Fuck yourself. No, I'm
anyway,
continuing.
so denazification being a myth in practice,
Fuck
I think
off.
it's really I think where you can see this most prevalent is really like Italy and Greece, those Mediterranean nations, which are also more in the east as well. Like the fucking years of lead, I need to read a lot more about it, but I got into the years of lead not that long ago when I had some free time. And it's funny because it's like nobody ever talks about how like anarchic the people were as well. And like I just think that entire period in Italy is so fascinating, and it just shows you that the thinking that they had is more geared towards being afraid of the Soviet Union than anything else. Because like they literally were like, oh, you're basically the same Nazis that we supposedly denazified. Well, here's all your power back to fight the Stalinist people.
Like the communists were actually worse. After all, they killed 100 million people, right? And then we move on to the final chapter, which is, well, the Nazis weren't as bad as communists too. Well, the Nazis weren't bad at all. And that's where we're at now. And
now you see
examples
German
of this
political
recently,
discourse.
before October 7, when the Canadian Parliament literally had an actual like Galicia division, foreign legion for the SS, Ukrainian Nazi get a standing ovation. It's a terrifying prospect because, you know, if you look hard enough and you unmask someone who is an anti-communist, you are inevitably going to find, not surprising.
That event happening in Canada, I have an insider in the Canadian government that claims that it was a setup by the opposition party. Because they don't actually like really approve guests or anything like that. So the opposition made sure that Trudeau would be taking fire because they honored a Nazi.
Surprisingly, a fascist.
So,
like
I
our
don't
most
know,
pro-Israel media company in Germany, Axel Springer. Hamas are
Source
worse than the Nazis. They
a
felt regret
staffer I know. But I think that's
their murder.
A very interesting thing and a very interesting narrative that they literally platformed a Nazi to try and hurt Trudeau, and it like helped Russian discourse and Russian misinformation. Like the Canadian right is so irrelevant.
Yeah, and then retweeting Elon's anti-Semitic bullshit in the same breath. Yeah, no, that's saying Hamas are worse than the Nazis. They felt regret in their murder is just Nazi apologia. That's it. I don't do the inverse of that either. I don't say like, oh, Israelis are worse than the Nazis either. I don't say that either. Some people do. I don't like that either because I think that that is a gross thing to say. I work at a Holocaust museum and you couldn't believe the number of motherfuckers like this coming in and unknowingly defending Hitler because history, revisionism, and a failure to understand basic geopolitical analysis is always the, well, I heard that wasn't actually true people. How the f are you a Holocaust denier or revisionist and you go to the Holocaust museum? What the f? That's kind of funny. Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're like, oh, I'm here to learn about this fake thing that didn't happen. What the?
Rather than wait for them all to slowly starve this winter, wouldn't it be more humane to just finish them off quickly now?
Oh, the final solution was the humane one. I didn't even see he got more unhinged.
After Barbarossa was launched, and they're writing back to the high command in Berlin saying, we can't feed these people. We don't have the food to feed these people. And one of them actually says, rather than wait for them all to slowly starve this winter, wouldn't it be more humane to just finish them off quickly now?
Bro, this is wild. This is wild.
Go to
Do you know why Zyklon B was developed? Do you know what the Nazis literally said about it? You know why they developed nerve gas and what they said about it? What do you think?
Like, I don't know. For any reason. Maybe that,
I
maybe
don't
some
know.
other reason.
I don't know what they said.
They developed Zyklon B as a humane way of killing people in the fucking Holocaust. They literally said it. Right? Because it doesn't, it's like, it doesn't make them suffer. They literally were, and so like, to say that is fucking wild, because their view was just like, how do we kill them en masse quickly? Is their view of humane things. That's what humanely, like, doing something kind of means at the end of the day. Because, like, look how many dogs get put down in those shelters. You think you're saving dogs too.
The Humane Society.
Yeah, exactly. Zyklon
That's
B
crazy.
Society.
Yes, no, he's talking about the Holocaust. He said the humane thing to do once you have enslaved 12 million people, 6 million Jews, like once you've enslaved them and trapped them in the concentration camps and you're slowly torturing them to death, the more humane thing to do is, instead of feeding them, is to just kill them all, like a mercy killing. That's wild.
But they were
Once again, I have a difference.
Virtuous. Like, they did say that, but it wasn't about virtue.
Yeah.
It was more about, oh, we got to wait around for this to happen.
Solution, which is called not putting Jews into concentration camps. I know, guys, crazy idea. A crazy idea. I know. Radical idea. Don't do that. That was a nut thing to just say unashamedly. Did you see who's following this guy?
Oh my God.
My goat, dude. Jedediah
awesome.
strikes again. Of
That's
course,
fucking
dude.
awesome.
Comment
Amazing.
JDW,
That's
boys.
fucking
W's in
great.
the chat. If there is an esoteric Nazi out there, JD Vance is in the DMs, starving. I love that it's also both the press office and his own personal private account. He was like, I don't want to miss this on either of my timelines. What next will he say about the Jewish problem and the solution to the Jewish problem, the final one? Elon Musk responds to this.
If you're familiar with me already, you probably already have opinions about me. If you like...
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?